Normally when you sit inside a Ford Mustang and you hit that start button, the car comes to life. You feel that rumble. You hear the glorious V8 exhaust out back. However, inside this Ford Mustang, when I hit that start button, this is what happens. Nothing. Pure quietness. So is this 2022 Ford Mustang Mach-E GT Performance really a Mustang? Let's find out. So does this Mach-E GT Performance resemble a Ford Mustang? Does it pay heritage to the original Mustang name? Well, for starters, there are Mustang badges all around the car. You see one right on the front grille. You also see one stamped on the steering wheel. And let's not forget about those taillights out back. They do resemble the traditional 3-slotted taillights that you would find on a Ford Mustang. And by the way, this resembles a Ford Mustang. The 0 to 60 time in this car is tied with a Ford Mustang GT500, coming in at 3.5 seconds. Brutal acceleration right off the line. There's not much else to say about that. However, the resemblance pretty much ends there. This is not a 2-door sports car. In fact, this is a 4-door crossover. This vehicle weighs close to 5,000 pounds. Also, there's a frunk up front. There's no engine under the hood, and this Mustang has all-wheel drive. So you could argue that this is the most practical, most spacious, and the only Mustang that you can drive year-round. There's no question that Tesla currently dominates the EV market. Tesla can't produce enough Model 3s and Model Ys right now, and sales are going through the roof despite market conditions. And that is why other manufacturers like Ford really wants to jump in. But when this was introduced by Ford, it caused so much controversy. The Mustang guys all shouted, saying, "How can you call this a Mustang? This is not a Mustang." And there was an uproar within the Mustang community. Fast forward 3 years later, this Ford Mustang Mach-E has been a huge success for Ford. And I would argue this is still one of the best EV cars you could buy today. Now on the road, this does not feel like a Ford Mustang. It feels more like a crossover SUV because it is. You're sitting much higher off the ground, which is great for most people and people with families and people that want to haul. It's easy to get in and out. You have a really good commanding view all around you, and you can haul the family around and lug things not only in the rear but also up front. Inside this GT edition, the front seats are different. You could tell they have a really sporty look, and also there's different kind of material. Inside is more of a suede kind of material. On the outside, leather, and they do hold you in. Even though they're aggressive, they're not super aggressive. There's a lot of cars out there with their GT seats or sports seats that are just too much. But this, I think, is a good balance. The bolsters are nice, but they're not cutting into my back. Same thing with the bottom cushion. They feel great. The back seats are a little bit less comfortable. They're more flat, but overall, space isn't too bad. I'm 5'10", and you can see I still have a couple inches of legroom, a couple inches of headroom, and that's way more space than you'll find in any other Ford Mustang. Rear passengers, unfortunately, do not get much other than vents and some USB ports. There's plenty of cargo room in the back, behind the power trunk, and of course, if you wanted more cargo room, you can fold down the second row seats. Very nice. And what I really love about this Mach-E is the frunk. Yes, there is a giant trunk in the front, which is why it's called frunk, and it's among the biggest in this class. Now, the Model Y's frunk is bigger, but I would say this is second. Everything is covered up with plastic on purpose, so it's waterproof. There's a little drain hole on the bottom, so if you want to fill it with ice and go tailgating, you can fill it with drinks or food, whatever. But also, it's big enough to be practical so that you could put your briefcase, sports bag, gym bag, whatever, little luggage up front. It's actually usable. There have been many other EV cars I've tested recently where up front, the only thing you could fit is pretty much the charging cable, and that's it. Now, of course, the drive is very comfortable, very quiet. I do kind of miss that V8 sound, but as a daily driver, it doesn't get much better than this. In the menu, there is a propulsion sound option, but even with it enabled, I don't hear much. I expected more piping of exhaust noise inside, and unfortunately, I'm not hearing any of it. The steering is fantastic. I love the way the steering feels inside this Mustang Mach-E. It's a lot more precise and even more weighted than most of the Mustangs I have tested. And the steering precision is second to none. It is fantastic. There's no play in the steering wheel whatsoever. And even though I know this has an artificial weight to it, it feels good. It's right. It's the best I've ever tested of any Mustang. The suspension is also very nice. Because EV cars place their batteries toward the bottom, the center of gravity is much lower. Around corners and bends, there's not a lot of body roll. And Ford tweaked the suspension to give it a really nice, comfortable feel. Now, on the inside, I already talked about the space, the cargo room. What about the features? Well, there's several things inside this Mustang Mach-E that makes it very different. Starting with the top, there's no sunroof, but you get one gigantic piece of glass. Of course, I think they copied the Model Y. Regardless, it's fantastic. It's even bigger than the one you find in Model Y, and you get a very clear view of what's on top. And you get a couple of screens inside. This giant vertically mounted infotainment screen, and it's very big in your face, running the latest sync software on there, and there's a volume knob that's built into the screen. That's quite unique. Second screen is the digital gauge cluster that you get. It's a much smaller one, but I'm glad Ford gave you one, unlike the Model Y, which there's nothing. It gives you the essential information, how much range you have left, your safety systems on here, how fast you're going, the speed limit, some of the other accessory information is all within your face. So I like it. It's not as big as some of the traditional ones out there, but hey, I think it works. Other features like memory seats, wireless phone charger, those are pretty standard. Now, I am driving a GT Performance Edition that I mentioned at the beginning. The GT basically gives you more performance. The car is faster, 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. However, if that wasn't enough and you wanted more performance, you could add on the Performance Edition, which is like a performance pack. And that decreases the 0 to 60 time down to 3.5 seconds. So you get a little bit more power, but they're very similar. With the GT or GT Performance, you're getting 480 horsepower, which sounds weird. So how is it faster? Well, the torque is different. With the GT, you're getting about 600 pound-feet of torque. With the Performance, you're getting 634. So you get a little bit more torque. But there is one downside to the Performance Edition, and that is range. With the GT, you get 270 miles of range, but with the Performance, you get 260, so you actually get a little bit less. Ford says you could charge up to 80% in about 44 minutes. So it's not the quickest when it comes to charging, but it's not the slowest either. So keep that in mind. Now, with the GT or GT Performance, there are a couple unique things that you get besides the performance. The exterior does look different. The front end, the front bumper is revised. There's a lot less matte black. Also, there's like a chin spoiler that's built in. There's a couple of vents on the side. In the back as well, you get a nice GT badge. Also, some of the pieces that were not painted is now painted. And let's not forget those beautiful wheels and brakes. So with the Performance, you get exclusive 20-inch wheels. It gives this Mach-E a really good stance. Also, you can see those giant red Brembo brakes beneath it. 4-piston calipers up front. Looks really, really nice. So that is also something else that you get. Now, so far I've been saying all the good to this brand new Mustang Mach-E GT. Even though it's different, I've mentioned about all the good things, but what about the bad things? When it comes to performance, there's something that you need to be aware of. This amazing 0 to 60 time that comes in at 3.5 seconds, unfortunately the power drops off really fast afterwards. According to Ford, the maximum power can only be sustained for about 5 seconds. Then afterwards, it really drops off. This GT performance does quarter-mile time close to 13 seconds, like 12.8. And it's way slower than the Model Y performance and, of course, the GT 500. A lot of EV manufacturers like to mess with door handles. Somehow they want to reimagine it, refresh it to the next generation of door handles. So a lot of people coming up to the Mach-E, they're like, how do you open the door? Well, Ford placed these buttons that you have to press on the B pillar and the C pillar. So with the front doors, if you press the button on the B pillar, the door kind of pops open a little bit, and there's a little handle that you can grab to open the door, which is nice. I think it's subtle, but you get it. But with the back doors, when you press it, it pops open. There's no handle to grab. I don't know why Ford didn't put like those little handles in the back. So unfortunately, every time you open the rear doors, you're getting your fingerprints on your beautiful car, which most people do not want. There are places that I feel could be better. I think Ford used their parts bin and kind of just took out what they can and slapped it in here. The buttons on the steering wheel, they look like they came straight out of a Ford Escape. The stalks look exactly the same. You look at your memory seats, the buttons, they don't look good. And this is a GT performance. This is sports oriented. Where are the sport pedals? Nope, you don't get them. The steering wheel also, if you want to adjust it, it's not powered. You have to manually adjust it like a peasant. Unfortunately, for this price range, I think it should have been powered. Unfortunately, ventilated seats are also missing. So up front in the summer, if you get hot, it's gonna get real hot. The last thing I want to throw in as a negative or being bad are the brakes. The brakes in this Mach-E takes getting used to, and even me driving this multiple times throughout many days, I still can't master it. Now inside the menu there is something called one pedal drive, which basically turns on regenerative braking. There's no way to adjust it, and when you have it on, it doesn't behave like the other cars too. So when you first load off, the car is still coasting, and then after a second, then you feel the regenerative braking come to life. So it's a weird sensation, and the braking itself also feels weird. Even without regenerative braking, like right now, I'm coming to a stop. With the regenerative braking and the brake pedal, it comes on really strong. There's like no give, just a slight little input, and you feel the Mach-E like come to a stop really fast. So it gets very jerky. And even me, like I said, driving a few days, I think I got it smooth, but many times I still don't. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to throw the brakes and regenerative braking in the negative pile. So as for pricing, there's several trim levels to choose from. The base starts around $48,000. Unfortunately, that's with the standard range battery pack, and there's no all-wheel drive. Then you could go up to the premium with around $56,000. You can select all-wheel drive, that's without it. And then you have the California Route 1, which is around $65,000. Then you go up to the GT, of course, performance-oriented, around $71,000. And lastly, the Performance Edition, that's the one I'm testing today, coming in around $77,000. Quite expensive, I know, but Mach-E's are still available for that federal tax credit of $7,500. So it does help you slightly. So to answer my question from the beginning of the video, is this a Mustang? Quite honestly, no. This is nothing like a Mustang. It's not a sports car. It is very practical, very comfortable, very quiet. You can use this as a daily driver, no problem. You can haul the family around. I would argue that this is still one of the best EV cars you could buy today because of everything that I've mentioned. So, is it a great car? Yes. Is it Ford Mustang? No. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you smash the like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for my future videos. Take care. Bye-bye.